Hello and welcome to the Argyle AI Decision Makers Summit, Shaping the Future of Business. My name is Vicki Lynn Brunscale with Argyle. It's great to have everyone joining us today. Just a couple of notes before I turn things over to our panel moderator for this session. First, a quick reminder to stop by our sponsors' virtual booths at any time during today's event and for the following week. Our partners are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience today. At any time during the event, you can visit the virtual booths from the main agenda page, and those do include complimentary materials, information, and meet and greet opportunities. And now, without further delay, I'd like to introduce our moderator, Rajama Krishnamurthy, Senior Director, Leader of Enterprise AI at Microsoft. We are so excited to have Rajama with us and our panelists with us for a panel discussion titled AI Use Cases for Business Transformation Success. Welcome, Rajama, and over to you.
Thank you, Vicki Lynn, and good morning. It's my pleasure and privilege to host such an esteemed panel of data and AI experts from across the industry. Before I get started, let me do a quick introduction of myself, and then I'll have the panel introduce themselves. My name is Rajama Krishnamurthy. As Vicki Lynn introduced, I'm a Senior Director for Enterprise AI at Microsoft. Before I got into AI, I have been dabbling in HR technology for far too long. And then currently I'm a product leader working on AI products for the enterprise. And when I'm not doing my day job, I'm also an adjunct professor at NYU teaching technology and AI. With that, over to the panel. Let's start with you, Deepthi. Could you please introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone. I am Deepthi Kunpuri. I'm currently serving as an AI executive and AI board member for various organizations. And also, I'm currently advising at the Strategic AI Program Level for University of San Francisco School of Management. I have around more than 2 decades of experience in the data and analytics space, and have seen all the kinds of data, the analytics grow from data science to AI side of the world. So in my current role, I enable the AI implementation, starting from the strategic focus, building the roadmaps, and implementing the solutions for different organizations. And today, I'm really excited to be part of this panel discussion with the esteemed group. And I look forward to learn and contribute. Thank you.
Thanks, Deepthi. Vijay, over to you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Vijay Gandapodi. I'm currently working as a CDO role, VP of Data Analytics AI, Gen AI for Reynolds American. It's a $15 billion business unit, part of British American Tobacco, which is a $35 billion business globally. And I've been with them for the past 4.5 years. Prior to that one, I was with the global head of Coca-Cola for data and AI, so implementing the solutions, AI solutions across the world. And I'm also, like other two panelists, I'm also a professor at Georgia State University. I've been teaching for the past 8 years. I teach big data, AI, Gen AI. Been teaching Gen AI for quite a few years. Last 2-3 years more of LLM-based ones, and then 30 plus years of industry experience, primarily on data analytics, and 10 plus years on AI. So looking forward for the discussion today.
Thank you, Vijay. I can already see my questions are brimming in the audience's minds when they hear what all you have done from an experience perspective, both Deepthi and Vijay. Over to you, Jeff.
Thank you. So I am Jeff Green. I'm currently the CIO here at Strike Construction. We're oil and gas midstream construction company working across the entire United States, various oil basins. I have been in the data and analytics space for around 25 years myself. Started out back whenever business intelligence became the buzzword back in the early 2000s, moved into other roles throughout IT, but still had a deep link into analytics, and I've watched multiple companies and helped them grow across that space and improve their analytics, and now into the AI world and seeing where that's going, and just happy to be here and add some context and some information, hopefully, that will be helpful.
Absolutely, Jeff. We're looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the various questions. So, what's a conversation on data and AI without some data? So, I can't remember all of this, so I'm going to read it out to you. So, a recent study of the future of work, especially AI at work, done by LinkedIn this year on US-based executives, 51% of the execs said that they were very excited about AI, but they're not clear where to start. 44% said that they will use AI absolutely in their org in the next year. 40% agree that it'll that AI will help increase revenue for their companies, but they're not very sure how. And very interestingly, only 4% are planning on any reassessment of roles in their company based on AI kind of getting included in their organization. So it looks like there's a lot of work to be done by the CIOs or their counterparts in educating not only themselves, but also the rest of their counterparts in the organization on AI and the use of AI. Just one more, the World Economic Forum, the study of jobs, 23 to 27, 2023 to 2027, said that there are 83 million jobs that are projected to be lost. It's not all because of AI, but I'm thinking there's considerable ones because of AI. And then there are 69 million to be created. So that's an interesting number. And just to round it all off, 75% of global knowledge workers are already using AI. 79% leaders agree that AI is needed to stay competitive in the industry, but 68% are not clear how to measure productivity using AI. And more than 2/3 of the jobs that were posted on LinkedIn did not exist 20 years ago. So just the advance of technology and the move of what technology could do, it's pretty evident from the numbers that we are seeing. And last one is 68% of the employees are struggling with work and close to 50% are feeling burnt out. So with that context, let's kind of jump into the questions. What is the most innovative use case you have seen IT teams implement, and how did it enhance operational efficiency, customer experiences, and our decision-making processes? Let's start with you, Vijay.
Okay, I will take two examples here. One is much more fancy, shiny object kind of a project. Other one is real difference in money making. One with is Coca-Cola, which we did it more on the Asia side, more in Korea, Hong Kong, those areas. That's primarily where when you go to a cooler to pick up Coca-Cola, having cameras at the both edges, using IoT. And the reason why I wanted to mention that is the time where we were using Gen AI, using GANs, where we are taking the pictures, and you will not know how they're going to be picking up the Coke or Sprite or water, whatever they take. They can take it in different ways. They can take it like this. Let me take this bottle. They can take like that. So you need to keep about 8,000 copies of that, so that it can generate the accurate direction in your mobile phone. So this was like using mobile phone. You can open up a cooler and then you can pick it up. So the complexity, what was there on that was you have to send the information back and get it within that without much delay, so that we can deduct that dollar for them. And if you don't get it right, you have to get the cheapest product what you have in the cooler. So the accuracy was very important. So that I will say as a shiny object AI using Gen AI GAN based technology. That's there. But the one which I will say is the one which I've worked recently in Reynolds AI, which has been rated as a world-class product, where we have our forecasting is 99% accuracy on a category basis, which eventually has more every percentage increase. They say it's about 40 million benefit for the organization. It makes sure the inventory is pretty well kept to the amount what we want. We don't need to have an out of stock or we have excess inventory. So I will say those two are the ones that, especially the forecasting, is that humanly you cannot do those things because we do it in a very, very granular level. And some of the things which we have done is what has made a big difference in the industry, as well as competitively we are able to get the market share.
Thank you, Vijay. Anyone wants to add anything interesting from their work or experience? Jeff or Deepti? All right, let's move on to the next question. We have more interesting questions for the other panelists. The next question is, what are the most significant ways you have seen organizations apply AI, and what are the business outcomes? Let me get started on, some of the things that we're doing at Microsoft, and then I'd love to kind of reach out to the other panelists to get some more insights here. When it comes to AI and applications of AI within the organization or the enterprise, Microsoft looks at three Microsoft enterprise systems. We look at three major pillars. One is the conversational AI. So all of the experiences that you have as an employee or a manager, or whether you're wearing the hat of an HR professional or a legal professional or a finance professional at the enterprise, what do you do to interact and get information? So the common conversations that can get you to the answers, complete transactions, or get some valuable insights to kind of move forward. So that's one pillar. The second pillar is, we all love it when somebody else does the work. This is the autonomous and a semi-autonomous agent to completely do your job for you when you either give it instructions or it runs on its own triggers. An example would be, imagine if we know that 100 people are coming to join your company on Monday. And if you have all of these 100 little robots scurrying around to kind of get them started, get the new employees started on their onboarding without anybody's help, give very valuable instructions to your onboarding buddies, to your hiring managers, to say, hey, can you send an email? Here is an email. Can you just hit the send? Stuff like that we don't have to keep track of. That kind of semi-autonomous robots that can do your job for you. And the last but not the least has been in vogue for quite some time now, which is all about what are the insights that we get from data, whether it is ML or whether it is other forms of AI, which is not necessarily LLM. How do you take all of those patterns and the data and the information that you have in your enterprise to create more valuable information, insights, and recommendations for your employees and your managers working across your enterprise? So those are some of the areas where we have seen that with all of these applications, obviously productivity. Second is the efficiencies for that you can gain. So the number of hours that you get back, the employee satisfaction, of doing these things in a much more easier way. And last but not the least is compliance. When sometimes humans don't get involved, we do get a lot more adherence to compliance. And so you do see that these three things are quite easily attainable. And last but not the least is the what we call as agile business agility. What took, let's say, 40 days to complete, let's say, some hiring somebody could be a lot lesser if we have more, robotic processes involved in the overall process. With that, let's see. Deepti, would you like to add anything there?
Yeah, so when I was working in different organizations and different industries, my strategy around like these identifying the AI applications were primarily around, like you mentioned, around the pillars. I kind of like reframed the pillars into customer focused, marketing focused, operational efficiencies, and other thing is governance. And I put them into these four pillars. The reason is like the customer focused is the one which is like hitting the top line, and within that we have either you can go with the bottom line use cases which would reduce the cost and at the same time improve the revenue. The other thing is around the governance, which is like primarily like looking from the data governance standpoint and AI governance standpoint to make sure that we are compliant, like what you mentioned in one of your pillars. And the fourth one is around the marketing strategy, because I see that there are a lot of AI use cases which can be implemented to bring in that top revenue, and that can be done primarily using the marketing strategies which we can implement using AI.
Thank you, Deepti. Anyone else that wants to add? All right. With that, moving on to the next question. What are the top challenges for IT leaders when identifying which AI projects will align with strategic organizational objectives? I know that many of the IT leaders are, having a sense of inertia. Where do we get started? How do we move forward? And, what kind of challenges they are already facing and how can they overcome those challenges? I'll pick on you, Jeff, if you could get us started on that.
Yeah, so I think you mentioned some really interesting statistics at the beginning of the call when you were calling out, that the jobs that are on LinkedIn, most of them didn't exist, several years ago. And I think that's one of the big challenges that we as IT leaders are seeing in this area is, number one is finding the right workers or the right people to accomplish these tasks. And then number two, it's the skill set. There's a gap in that skill set currently, right now. And so that makes it very challenging for IT leaders like myself and other CIOs to be able to even start these projects. And then the other part of that is, when you're looking at an AI, because it's the buzzword of the day. I mentioned being back in analytics back when business intelligence was the buzzword. Every couple of years, we know that there's a new buzzword. Right now, that buzzword is AI. So boards are asking IT leaders and CEOs are asking IT leaders, what are we doing with AI? And for me, specifically around this, I asked our board and our C-level executives earlier in the year. I said, here's what we're looking at with AI this year. I got the feedback that we don't really want to do anything with AI this year, and so we're getting pushed in a different direction. We're not doing it fast enough. And so I think the challenge is, identifying what is going to strategically help the organization. What I would say to answer that, long story short there, is find something simple. Find a simple win. Because a lot of the projects that are being initiated with AI won't have an ROI on them for 2 to 3 years. If you start with something simple, maybe an RPA project or something like that, you'll get a quick win. That also, if you're in an organization that doesn't have or has an aversion to technology. I work in the construction industry currently, and construction has a huge aversion to technology. When you look at the Gartner spend on IT and technology related to construction, they are just above education and government in that spend. That goes up as you go into other things, banking and technology companies and things of that nature. But so what I say there is find something that's going to give you a win quickly. And as far as the challenges that you have to overcome, again, it's going to be finding the right people. So it's the right skills to do that. And I would say work with a very strategic partner that you have a good relationship with already to find a way that you can, again, find that quick win.
Thank you, Jeff. At Microsoft, we started something called an AI Center of Excellence. I mean, it doesn't have to be fancy. You just pull in a team of people that work across the various disciplines, whether it's product management. In Microsoft is a tech company, obviously, so we have people working in product management, software engineering, user experience designers, data and data experts, and architects and engineers that work on the various aspects of bringing data together, as well as people who are user researchers and anthropologists that can make a difference to how the ethical considerations of AI can be applied. And obviously always have your employment law people and legal people in your mix. Bringing them all together to kind of get started on thinking about what can you do and how can you bring everyone together on thinking about what first projects could look like. And the projects will be based on things like the readiness of people, readiness of data, and the readiness of models that are available to you to kind of get them started and so on. So having both on one side a group of people that can be your think tank, that can bring others together on not just what the projects are, but also the cultural aspects of it, but then also thinking about how to get your data and other aspects of it ready is very important. So thank you, Jeff. I'm going to jump to another related question on the same topic. Vijay, if you could share with us what the challenges that CIOs and their teams are facing related to AI adoption. especially as it relates to data quality issues, skill gaps, and obviously the org resistance that Jeff talked about? And what are the tips to overcome these issues?
I was planning to, yeah, the previous question also was very close to this one. So I will share, last 10 years, almost might have worked on 100 plus AI data science projects. I will say 75% got adopted, 25 did not make it. So I'll go over various challenges. The first one I'll say is adoption. Adoption is, as you said, like getting the teams trained who's going to use it. Because if we don't do that one, you can have the best models, you can have the accuracy levels, or even the clean data. But if the person doesn't know how to operate it or has value from that one, they are not going to adopt it. I had seen cases where we would have rolled it, the current team would have adopted it. When the new SVP comes, they probably don't have the mindset or probably don't know about it. They may not adopt it because the value, they may not feel the value about it. So probably have to make sure the buy-in, right? It is if you don't get the buy-in, or if you don't have them understood, so have the center of excellence, have the training, have the change management, not just only the project time it is done. Treat it as a product, so it is going to be evolving. You just cannot step back and say I've launched the product, it will be there. The reason is when you are trying to do with any other solutions, it doesn't have a mind on its own. Whereas AI and data science, the models can take a mind of its own. What could have been a model which would have been very successful for you might be may kill your business. I've seen it in my over my period of my experience. I will give an example. Whatever models which worked on 2021, most of the models on pricing failed in 2022 because models were not prepared to take care of 2% inflation to 9% inflation. None of the models were trained to take care of that one. When it happened, it kept telling most of the, because the models were trained with previous data of 1 year, which said only 2% inflation. So you could keep on increasing the prices. But whereas the people were not ready to pay the prices. So all the price elasticity which were used started getting your volumes down. So if you don't know the business, so adaptability is the key one. The second part I will say is, especially on the Gen AI, the current trend is when I go to all the conferences, they say 85% will not get adopted. That's the current rate of adoption because most of the vendors who are implementing the LLM have not much experience. They don't know about hallucination measurements and other things. So what happens is you get it. It's like GPS. What was at 2003, 2004. If you go to wrong neighborhood once or twice, then you're not going to trust the GPS. Same thing about your customers. You deliver something for them. If it gives you a wrong information in your LLM, they are not going to be adopting it. So and especially if you're going to do it, one of the tips I will say is never implement an LLM based solution to your outside customers until you are delivered two or three for your internal customers and their adoption, because you will be bound for any kind of legal lawsuits if you are trying to do it for outsiders. So make sure that you have 1 or 2 years experience doing it internally and getting adopted. So that will be my second tip on the LLM based one. The third one is data, data, data. Like they say, like whatever the data, I think like clean data is the king. If your data is not going to be clean, whether it is going to be based upon data which is visibly wrong, or it's based upon the business data is wrong, you cannot get your models right. So on AI, it's all based upon the fuel, which is the data. So we'll get that one. The final part is build your internal skill. Since I'm a professor, I also produce a lot of students there. Um, Without internal backbone of AI, you cannot be, a lot of companies depend only on the vendors. That will not sustain, because you need to have internally who understands the code, who can modify the code when things happen. Otherwise, as I said, like it has to be closely shepherd these models. Otherwise, you need to have a strong machine learning operations, a strong things to go back and change, because more than the ML or AI, which can help the business, it can destroy your business. There are scenarios where the business have got destroyed because of AI models and ML models. So having the strong knowledge of people who have depth, without that in your organization, running these kind of thing is a risk for the organization. This will be my 4 tips.
So Vijay, there's a question in the chat that they're talking about specifically people are scared of using AI. I think you mentioned that from an adoption perspective. In your experience, or what do you suggest that people do for people who are scared of using AI? How do you kind of overcome that with people?
Yeah, you have to adopt AI because reason is if you don't do this one, if your competitor pushes you to do it. Example being, I'm going to say AI, not just the Gen AI piece because AI people have different ones. I'm going to take it as complete data science and AI. If you don't do your price elasticity and do the pricing, your competitors are going to take the advantage. They're going to get the market share. If you're not going to do the market mix modeling, they will do it. So you have to adopt. The adoption there, what I will suggest is you need to have a center of excellence. Bring in people who have done this one. Don't bring in. What I've seen is some of the people who have taken over these roles to deliver has doesn't have prior experience of delivering it. Like if you are going to have somebody trying to deliver the LLM and Gen AI, please bring in people who have delivered it. It's going to be very less people because been in the industry only for 1 year, but that is going to be your one. And then do a lot of POCs and internal one before you put it into production, and always have a lot of checks before going into production. There can be a lot of checks to be created from a C level and the board level, so that it does not create any kind of major issues. And always make sure that your legal is involved in that, especially when it's going to be going outside your company for any kind of interaction. Inside it is fine, but inside also, unless it comes from the C level, not just the CIO level, you need to buy in from the management board and CEO. Example being the example you just given. If you want to have new people coming in, they have to get adopted rather than asking questions to the people. Some of the ones which we are doing on Gen AI is quite advanced areas where we have human in the loop, contextualization, and hallucination checking. So even with all those things, if you want to get that adoption, you need to have a C level pushing the people who are going to use it, that yes, it's safe to use this one, it's internal, we want you to use it, and it's not going to be taking away your jobs. All those things are going to be there. Unless there is a buy-in, it's going to be very hard on the adoption for the people. So those are my tips where we have got high level of adoption in AI. And also bringing the value. You need to go back and say like the forecasting and price elasticities. In 2021, we had a price elasticity which was generating 200 million revenue, which was not there because we were able to do the pricing ahead of our competitors, where we used to be fast followers. That gave us an edge of losing. Being in CPG, you want to capture that 5 cents, 10 cents ahead of your competitor and still not losing your market share. So those are the ones where it's a balance between adopting the technology, where you don't want to give up the market share because somebody else will take it if you don't adopt. At the same time, bring in the right skill set internally, and have to challenge your vendors to make sure it gets adopted in the organization.
So
Hopefully, I answered the question.
Yes, you did. Thank you, Vijay. And I think you answered it and more. From one of the things that I have seen when I speak with a lot of customers, which I do at Microsoft, is that there is that genuine fear of people adopting the AI. It's almost like, oh, if I adopt AI, my job will be replaced by AI, and how do I kind of move forward? It's an emotional thing rather than a technology or a can I learn how to use it or not? One of the things that it was funny or not so funny, but about a year back, I had a conversation with one of the governments in European government. It was a city government team that I spoke with, and they were asking the same questions. And I said, at the end of the day, it's forget the company for a second. Let's just kind of focus individually. As an individual, if you want to future-proof your career, you have to learn AI because it's here to stay. It's going to be in your daily life, similar to how handheld phones are, and similar to how other things have replaced technologies of the last 20 years. AI is here to do a lot more things in your daily life and daily work. So how do you kind of become part of the journey is something that you have to learn. 6 months later, I met with the same team, and they said what you suggested was very good, because that of future proofing your career, when it became what is in it for me, helped people think about how to kind of adopt AI better as they go along. So I think there are many ways. It all depends upon the culture of the company. It depends upon how, as Jeff pointed out, there is a company that is averse to technology in its place, but then how do you make sure that you can bring certain technologies to forefront and have people use it? It is not a one size fits all, but certainly something that everyone has to think through as CIOs and other C board members for their enterprise. Because the answer is very simple. If you're not on the journey, then you're going to be the one that is left behind. And I think everyone is feeling that already. With that, I think I'm going to talk about and ask about a specific issue, a specific consideration when it comes to AI. You mentioned it quite a few times, Vijay, which is, hey, be careful about what you implement, get your legal involved. But more importantly, set aside the legal implications of AI, but there are ethical implications of AI about fairness, about inclusion, about lots of areas of things, bias that could occur because of you're using the wrong models, or you're using the wrong data, or you're implementing it in the wrong way, that you inadvertently are causing harm to people in terms of whether it's access to healthcare, or access to jobs, or access to opportunities, or in a lot of ways just not being fair. How do you think about, as CIOs, as leaders in the technology forefront, how do we think about what are the governance practices that we should put in place, and what are the ethical considerations we should have in place for AI deployment? Maybe I'll pick on you, Deepti, if you could get us started there.
Yeah, sure. So when it comes to AI, right, we need data and we need models. And once we have data and models, we generate insights. And based on the insights, we derive decisions and we derive value. So this is the kind of like I see as a life cycle for the AI side. So when it comes to data and the model, that is where the bias, the fairness, the transparency, the trust, and the privacy, everything integrates there itself. So if you have a data really bad and you pass that data into a model, you get a bad output and you cannot derive value from it. Same thing, like if you have the data which is like biased towards one race or the other, then in that case, you will have the output, which is like pretty biased, and the insights and the value is also the same thing. So I put this from ethical consideration, we all should always look into like 3 different sections. One is the data issues. In data issues, you can look into the imbalance of the data set, which includes like the historically you are going in one direction, but suddenly there is a new kind of data which is coming in, which is not considered. Then in that case, your model will be generating the similar kinds of insights based on the historical data. The other thing is the algorithmic issue, which I say is like if the model which we are training on is already biased, then the data itself is biased again. The output of the data itself is biased. So that is another big problem. And the other thing is like we deploy the model and we think that the output is being generated and it is, okay, everything is good and we are going to use the insights. But the major challenge I see is like after the deployment, nobody monitors it. So that is a big challenge in the current industry where the data issue, even though the data is clean, did you check the data for the bias side of it? Did you check the compliance side of it? Because if you're in a regulated industry like banking, remittance industry, or in pharma industry, you cannot have biased data entered into the model and you cannot derive the output from it. So it is a big, big challenge that you need to have some kind of a governance in place, especially from the deployment and having a human feedback loop. And in order to do that, I always nudge for having a kind of a framework or a community which looks at it externally, not the AI development team, but some other committee who looks into ask these questions like, hey, what is the data which you are using? Are the data trained? Are you getting consistent results? Is there any data drifts? And like Vijay was talking about LLM, nobody's talking about hallucinations right now. And there are a lot of hallucinations in the data. And however you try to explain to the executive team, sometimes it falls flat because they don't understand hallucinations at all. So you need to have the steering committee and the steering group, especially for AI and the data governance, in order to resolve these ethical issues. And it's a continuous monitoring and continuous process, which every organization has to adopt.
Thank you, Dipti. Just that topic alone, we could talk for a few hours, for sure. There are so many frameworks at Microsoft. Every project goes through a scrutiny by that committee. I'm an RAI champ or a responsible AI champ myself, and every project that is worked on in my organization, uh, we uh, we study it for impact. We escalate it for sensitive use cases, and we have legal and others people involved when it comes to approval of projects as it moves along, whether it's for internal or for external as well. So those are some of the things we absolutely need to put in place. So I'm going to jump over to some additional questions from the audience at this point. There's a question on cyber risk profiles as it applicable to AI implementation, the risk reward and the competitive risks versus ROI. Anyone wants to take it? Vijay, would you like to?
So risk is pretty important. Like I will start talking about LLM because since the topic of any kind of LLM projects which we have or Gen AI projects, we have to go and brief it to our security because whether it's going to be open AI or closed AI, when I say open AI is if we are going to be sending any data either to anybody outside our firewall, it has to be measured, like whether that data is going to be trained. So anybody who comes and presents to us, either it is a major companies like even Microsoft or Llama or Mistral, any of those projects, or if you have any kind of other companies which are using that. So we go back and say, how are you getting our data? Where are you storing the data? Where is it going to be sent? How it is going to be dropped? So all of those things are going to be checked before there. And currently, our policy is if our data is going to be used outside our firewall, they're not permitting. Anything which we are doing should be within our firewall, or it should be within our Azure environment where we can have that AI. So those are the ones where you may want to get your security involved to make sure that because you don't want somebody tomorrow to go back, and there are a lot of things which you can poison it. You can poison the models through a prompt side of it, or somebody else can go and capture what you have already used for training that model. Where it just happened, like example being the Samsung's example, where they have all their code was loaded, and somebody can go back and get the code. Being a professor, I also see a lot of these codes coming out from my students. So it's easy to get some of those things pulled back. But as a corporate, you need to make sure that you review that with your security.
Thank you, Vijay. Let's take another question from the audience here. Should the implementation of AI be agnostic of as various tools are replacing the leading LLMs? How do we think about model switching here as it comes to implementation? I don't know, Jeff or Deepthi, would anyone of you like to take it? Deepthi, would you have any insight on that?
Yeah, definitely. So I always watch for being like cloud solutions. The reason is like the models are keep on changing, and you need to be make sure that you are going with the right solution, but also making sure that you have the right frameworks in place. So that being said, agnostic solution is one way of doing it, but sometimes like having a quick solution by going with the already built solution would be viable. I always watch for like either buy versus build. If the solution to build takes like 5 million versus buying the solution is like less than that, then go for it, because that is the way we need to look at when we are identifying the use cases. Typically, when I identify the use cases, I put them into value, complexity, and the risk factor, and also I put it as another category like buy versus build, because I just wanted to make sure that when AI adoption is itself is so difficult, and at the same time, if you are not adapting and you need to build the solution for 5 years, when the solution is already readily available, I just wanted to go for it.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
I would add
Go
to
ahead.
that. Sorry, to what DT said is, I think that's key of any IT project that you're engaging in is build versus buy. You have to evaluate timelines. You have to evaluate, how much money is available to spend for the project, and so I think that's true of any AI project. I mean, like I said, I would go after the quick wins first, and that may be where you go out and you buy something versus building it. But again, I think it's a case by case basis that you have to evaluate that and make a decision as a leader along with whoever your AI governance team is, legal, and as Vijay mentioned, including the cyber side of it is a key to any project. But I think it's, again, you really have to evaluate what are your timelines, when do you need to show an ROI on this project, and make sure that you're aligning that to the priorities that the business has.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Deepti. So there's a question here on how can IT leaders identify AI projects that align with your organization's long-term strategy, and how do we ensure what factors contribute to successfully prioritizing AI initiatives? One of the things that when I talk to other organizations or even within Microsoft, we always talk about AI not as the destination, but also as a vehicle to get to your destination. Your destination is always your business strategy. So you're not going to change your business strategy because AI is here. You're going to change how you're going to achieve your business strategy because AI is here. And so prioritizing AI initiatives, whether it's short-term or long-term, should be based on what your business goals are, not based on what your AI goals are. And then choosing projects are, as I mentioned earlier, think about what is the ROI of the project? What were you trying to achieve from that? What is the availability of data in your organization to kind of achieve that? What is the availability readiness of models, or whether it is you're buying or building, how quickly you can do it? And then last but not the least, are these very sensitive use cases that need a multiple scrutiny and stuff like that you would need to think about? Figure out, put a weightage on all of these based on the culture of your organization, and then prioritize it accordingly is my 2 cents on that. Let's click some additional questions. We have about 4 minutes to the close, so I'm going to quickly see what else. Let's take this one. How do AI solutions complement other emerging technologies such as cloud computing or IoT in driving broader business transformation efforts? It's a very interesting question. Who wants to take it?
I can take it. Go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead, Vijay.
Yeah. So currently it's all combined together. A lot of like Microsoft Azure, Google, or AWS, they do support a lot of AI solutions. So the cloud is part of it. But having it in cloud makes it much more easier because you are going to be needing a lot of data, and so having it instead of you managing it, putting it in cloud, whether you're using the big cloud providers AI solution, or you're going to go with independent AI solutions, that makes it easy to implement rather than having it in-house data. And because we are almost 100% in cloud, even at Coke, we are 100% in cloud. So that gave us a lot of, it's easy to create the pipelines, and we were able to build. Regarding the IoT also, I will say the same thing now that we are connecting a lot of cameras, especially being a manufacturing company. If the data is coming on a frequent basis, the tools which is available in cloud makes it much easier to get those things done rather than having it buying a different technologies. So I'll say it is all combined together. Using cloud will be very helpful for AI, and IoT is going to be a huge one for manufacturing sector for AI.
Thank you. Thank you, Vijay. I am sorry I can't take all of the questions. There are so many more interesting questions, but I think when I look at them, we have answered some of those in one way or the other. As we close, I'd like to give each one of you an opportunity to say 2 words that you would want the CIOs to remember as they think about AI, to put you on the spot. Let's start with you, Jeff. 2 words.
Be selective. Be selective in the projects you choose to do, and ensure that they are going to provide value. As you mentioned, Rajama, around business strategy still outweighs AI, and it will win no matter what the consequences are, no matter what the situation is. So make sure you be selective in what you choose to do. Make sure it has business value.
Thank you, Jeff. Vijay.
One is business value. Again, make sure you have the values. And second one is adoption. Without focusing on adoption and push from the C levels, however brilliant the products are, will never get adopted.
Thank you. Deepti.
I would say that be consistent in the approach, whatever you're taking for AI adoption, because that is the one which we have to make sure that we are going in the right direction. So evaluate, reevaluate. I think those are the two keywords which I wanted to use.
Thank you, Deepti. And from me, I would say get going. So thank you very much. And over back to you, Vicky Lynn.
Thank you so much, all of you, for such an insightful panel discussion. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today for this session. This session, along with all of today's content, will be available on demand following the event. And as a reminder, please do check out the prizes and raffle rules section to see how you can earn points for a chance to win a prize today. Our next session will begin at 12:25 p.m., and that will be a thought leadership. And you can click on the join button that will appear on your screen to be redirected to that session. And we do look forward to seeing you there. And thank you again to our panelists.